I want to read something from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Hopefully, maybe you've heard it before. This is the Ascension edition of the Catechism. You can follow along with any recent edition of any recent version of the Catechism of the Catholic Church. All right, okay, here we go. Hi, my name is Father Mike Schmitz, and this is Ascension Presents. So, as I probably bring up maybe way too often, is I work with a lot of high schoolers, I work with a lot of college students, and a lot of those who are just beyond college. So because of that, I work with a lot of people who are in this evolving relationship with their parents, like this evolving relationship with their families. Because as we know, in adolescence, we have to actually get to a place where we experience some kind of autonomy. I remember hearing a psychologist talk about this, and he said that it's absolutely necessary for proper psychosocial development. We need to be part of a group. Like, we absolutely need to be. And one of the first groups, maybe the first group who we're a part of, is our family. And we need to be part of that. We need to know that we belong there. We need to know that we're safe there. We need to know that no, you have a role here, that you're important. These people actually care about you and you care about them. To have real rights in the family and real responsibilities in the family, super important. So we need to belong first to a group. But then even in the midst of that group, we need to take the next step of development. And that next step of development is I have an autonomy in that group. So I'm part of the group, but I'm also an individual, right? So there's this real healthy human development of I'm part of the group, I belong. And in the midst of the group, I'm an individual who has worth, has dignity that the group doesn't give me, right? And this is essentially the mystery of Christianity. I mean, it's a mystery. I mean, you go all the way back to the Old Testament. So it's Judeo-Christianity is what? Is here, this people of God brought into the people of God, brought into the family of God. Here you are. When you're baptized, you're made a son or daughter of the Father and brought into the family of God. And so we have this sense of like, okay, I belong in the church. But even in the church, I recognize that I'm an individual in the church. So it's both, right? It's not either or, it's both and. So let's go back to the family. As adolescents are growing and developing, yes, hopefully they were blessed with good families and they knew that they belonged. The next step is, how am I different? How am I distinct from my family? Now, the next step is this. What happens when I'm no longer living with my family? What's my relationship with my parents now? What's my relationship with my siblings now? Now, it's funny because the Catechism actually has something about this. I don't know if you've ever seen this. It's called the Catechism of the Catholic Church. I know it's bright out. Maybe you can't see it, but this is the Ascension edition of the Catechism. I love it. This is not a commercial. So I know this will sound like a commercial. It's not. I just really, really like this. Whenever someone comes over to the house, I'm like, you guys, have you seen the new Catechism from Ascension? And they're like, no, we haven't. And I show it to them and they're like, wow, it's amazing. Because it is. In the Catechism, also other versions of the Catechism have these same words. It specifies what are the duties of children to their parents. And so, of course, it says filial respect is shown by true docility and obedience. So filial respect, it means basically the respect of children to their parents, is shown by docility, meaning I'm open to being taught. Like, my parents get to teach me. I remember my dad saying that he caused a lot of pain for his mom. He said, I would argue with her. If she said something was white, I would say it was black, even if I knew it was white. Like that kind of, so that's my dad. He grew past it, it's good. But docility, meaning I'm open to being taught. So again, filial respect, how we treat our parents, marked by docility and obedience. So I'm open to being taught. Now, that doesn't mean that they're the best teachers, but it does mean that they are my teachers. That's very important. It doesn't mean that they're the best example, but it does mean they have something to teach me. Docility, I'm open to being taught, and obedience. Now, I remember, maybe I've said this before, but I remember being a kid and being like, well, at Catholic school, and they said, we need to obey our parents. And I'm like, yeah, but what if my parents asked me to rob a bank? The Catechism actually specifies, don't do that. Here's what it says. It doesn't say banks, it doesn't say anything about banks, but it does say this. As long as a child lives at home with his parents, the child should obey his parents in all that they ask of him when it is for his good or that of the family. And then there's a quote from Scripture that says, children, obey your parents in everything, for this pleases the Lord. So that sense of like, if it's for their good and that of the family. So robbing a bank is not for your good. It's not a good thing. You don't have to obey your parents if they're asking you to sin. So that's hopefully clear now for everybody. The next step comes back to the question of, but I'm growing older. Do I still have to obey my parents when I'm no longer in the house? What about here I'm at college? Do I still have to obey them even now? That's when it gets not just trickier, but just more robust, more complex, more colorful. Here's what the Catechism says. As they grow up, children should continue to respect their parents. Obviously. So we all know this. We all know that every one of us is a sinner. So we all know that we have the capacity for evil inside of every one of us. And some of us become parents. And in that, there can be really horrible things that some parents do to their children. We know that we respect the office of parents. We respect the persons, human beings. We respect people because they have dignity. And we respect the office of parents. But individuals, you have to earn that kind of respect. If I'm going to respect Bob or James, because they've proven that they deserve respect. At the same time, so what the Catechism is talking about when it says we must respect our parents, they mean respect them as persons made in God's image and likeness, and also respect their office, but not necessarily respect their choices, not necessarily respect how they have lived out that parenthood. Does that make any sense? Hope that makes a distinction. It goes on to say, okay, as children grow up, they should continue to respect the parents. They should anticipate their wishes, willingly seek their advice, and accept their just admonitions. So anticipate their wishes. Basically, you're going to have a relationship of love with your parents. How many times, if you had good parents, how many times did they anticipate what you might need? How many times did they serve you and say, you know what, they want some water, I'm going to get the water. They're going to, in the morning, they might be hungry for breakfast. I'm going to get some food and make sure they have some breakfast. They anticipated your wishes. And so what the church is saying is, as we grow older, we should become that same kind of person where we realize I have a role in this family as well. And I'm going to anticipate my parents' wishes. Goes on, willingly seek their advice and accept their just admonitions. So just admonitions, right? If they have good advice, if they have good counsel, well then, great, I can seek that out and I can accept that. Goes on to say, obedience toward their parents ceases with the emancipation of their children. Meaning, when you're on your own, you no longer have to obey your mom or dad. The expectation to obey your parents ceases when you're independent of them. Now that's important because the next distinction is very clear. It says, obedience towards parents ceases with the emancipation of the children, not so respect, which is always owed to them. So yes, when you get out on your own, you no longer have to do what your mom and dad say. But we always have to respect them. Not only respect them, but the Catechism goes on to take the next big step. And that next big step is, when they grow old, when our parents grow old, are we there for them? Here's what Catechism 22:18 says. It says, as much as they can, adult children, they must give them material and moral support in old age and in times of illness, loneliness, or distress. As much as we possibly can. In their old age, in their sickness, in their distress, as much as we can, we have to be able to help them. And this is the challenge, right? Sometimes it's like, okay, so you're saying that when I'm on my own, I don't have to obey my parents anymore. Sweet, that's awesome. Okay, but we still have to respect them and still have to take the next step, which is to treat them, God willing, as they treated us in our dependence, as they treated us in our sickness, as they treated us in our times of distress. Where as much as they could, they showed up and were there for us. As much as we can, we need to show up and be there for them. I know some of you have done this heroically. I know some of you have done this in an incredible, incredible way. But all of us are called to it. And that's the challenge. Obedience, docility, of course. Respect, always. But then as much as we possibly can, to care for our parents and be there for them when they need us, as they were there for us when we needed them. Anyways, that's the Catechism, and I hope that you enjoyed it. There's this thing called the Catechism in the Year. It's coming up pretty soon, so check it out. Anyways, from all this here to Ascension Presents, my name is Father Mike. God bless.